All right. Now I gotta share my screen. Oops. Okay. I feel like okay. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us today. So while everyone's getting started or coming in, feel free to scan our QR code. And on there's a Padlet with a brief icebreaker activity. You'll just use the QR to the left in the chat. And then if you want to as well, on that link or on that QR code, there's also a link to our slideshow presentation and our handout along with along with the webinar activities that you'll see today. And then also if you plan on using Illustrator, make sure you get that opened up and ready to go. Just a reminder that if you are a UCD student, you can download it in the chat using the link provided in the chat, sorry, and enter it and enter in your university credentials. So we'll give people just a couple minutes to get that done, let people come in. And yeah. So I don't know if I should wait or just move on to the next one. Just move on. Okay. So welcome. This is our webinar on which is graphics for branding. And it's building a cohesive visual identity using Adobe Illustrator. So really during this webinar, you will be exposed to Adobe Illustrator and learning more about Adobe Illustrator, but with no further ado, I want to introduce our presenters. I'm Kirsten. I am in my final semester at UCD. I'm a second grade teacher in Aurora Public Schools. And I actually am probably more of a novice to Adobe Illustrator, but I've enjoyed learning a lot more to be able to share with you today. And then Stephanie, you want to go?
And I'm Stephanie and Foster, and I am in my third semester at NCU's LDT Master's Program. And I am also a pretty novice when it comes to Adobe Illustrator. And so this has been a great introduction for me as well. So I hope you get as much out of this webinar as I've enjoyed learning about Adobe Illustrator.
And then hi, I'm Kim. I'm in my first semester of the program, and since I did not know very much about Adobe, I thought this would be a good topic to choose for the webinar. And so we will all do our best to show you our tools.
Okay. Oops. So yeah, like I mentioned before, we do have a handout that we will use. You can use this link that's provided in the slides. It's also on the QR code that was provided when you first came in.
The QR code is just for the Padlet.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you for that.
No, you're good.
No, that. Thank you. So yeah, on the hand, do you guys see my hand? Oh, wait, hold on. Do you guys see the handout, right?
Yep.
Do you guys see the handout right now?
Yep.
Okay. So on the handout, there's a whole bunch of resources that you can use today. There's just tips and tricks that you can use when you are eventually designing your own logo for yourself. So definitely keep that handy during our webinar today because that will be helpful. Okay. And then Kim.
Okay. And then the goals for our webinar is to help you understand the benefits to having a personal or a business logo, and to use Adobe Illustrator, which is a commonly used tool to create logos and to design your own logo. So we are going to help you create your own 2D vector graphic logo using Adobe, and then you are also going to see an example of how you can animate your logo later on if that's something that you'd be interested in doing later on. And then the idea for our logo application is just the importance of creating a brand, a personal brand or a business brand, and how that can help attract clients to your business, so that you can advertise and create, an eye-catching logo, that will impress your clients and show your clients what you can do and why they should choose your business or choose you for whatever you're offering. And since Adobe is a common tool, lots of employers want to hire people who know how to use Adobe. We thought that showing you Adobe Illustrator would be a good tool for you to see and practice with. So some topics that we're going to be going over in our webinar is going to help you understand the value of branding and creating your own logo for both business and personally, and how you can design your logo to be attractive and eye-catching to potential clients. And then as well as for being able to understand why you should apply this logo creation to different settings, different contexts, and how you can use it to really advertise yourself or your business. And then we wanted to go over some big topics that you're going to hear throughout the webinar. So the first kind of important topics that we're going to be talking about a lot are the differences between vector and raster graphics. And you can see with our example image, some just visually the differences between the two. But vector graphics are going to be made up of computer generated shapes or points. And when you zoom in on a vector graphic, the resolution will stay the same. You won't lose resolution if you zoom in on it. And then a raster graphic is just going to be a picture or an image that are made up of different pixels put together. And they're usually going to be arranged in a row or a column so that when you end up zooming in on them or changing the size of them, you're going to lose that clarity in the image. And then some other topics that we're going to go over are the basics of logo design. So knowing who you're trying to advertise to or attract to your business, looking at other logos and seeing what aspects of those logos that you like and appeal to you, keeping your logo simple so that potential clients understand what you're trying to sell, and then just being strategic with colors and contrasting colors as well, and just making sure that you can use this logo across many different platforms.
Yeah, I think we might be on Kirsten, or I think we skipped a slide. Oh, there we go.
Sorry, I was on 8. Okay,
Oh, no.
now we're on 9.
Yeah.
And then some of the tools that we're going to show you are going to be the Adobe Suite tools, focusing on Illustrator and After Effects, and then also talking about Adobe Photoshop, and then Animate as well. And then we will also cover some non-Adobe tools that you can use in case you don't want to download Adobe or you want to use a different computer program. Some of these alternative tools will work better with those programs.
Oops.
All right, so what we are encouraging everyone to do is to join us while we show you Adobe Illustrator and creating a logo and showing you how our group created the logo that you see on the screen for our group. And so then as you see us designing this logo, start thinking about what you could potentially put in your own logo using Adobe Illustrator. If you would like to follow along, you can also look at the steps that we're going through on the slides from the slideshow as well.
And then do you want me to stop sharing your screen at this point?
Yeah, it looks like I'm not able to access it.
Uh-oh. That's not good. Let's see. I'm just gonna make you the host, I think. Oh, there
Can
you
you
go.
see?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we are going to go through the steps of designing our logo, which is our KSK Design logo. So if you have any questions, feel free and put your questions in the chat, and Kirsten and Kim will address it. Or if you want to chat or raise your hand on video, I'll try to notice and answer it that way too. So the first thing that we're going to focus on these, basically these top two tools here. One is called the selection tool. The other one's called the direct selection tool. And then this collection of tools, which has, if you right click, a rectangle tool, an ellipse tool, a polygon tool, a star tool, and a line tool. So we're going to focus on those basic tools today. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create our background image here. So in order to do that, we're going to make a rectangle. And what you can do is you can select the rectangle tool. And what you'll see when you click or right click on it, you'll see that there's an M here. That means that's the shortcut. So if you also press M on your keyboard, it'll take you to that tool. So if you don't want to keep going back and forth, that's a way to do it. So you can either click onto the board and enter the dimensions, or you can just click and then drag. And oops. And what it'll do is it'll fill in the same way that the last shape that you made. So you can tell that the last shape that I made had this green color. So we'll want to change that. But before we do, one thing I want to orient you to is this properties panel up here. If we use our selection tool here, and then we select the rectangle, it'll give us the dimensions here. So what I will do is I will show you, generally the dimensions here are 314 points and 355 points. So I'm going to enter those here. And that gives me the dimensions of the rectangle that we want. And I'm just going to put that in the center. And then another thing that you want to look at is the color of the inside or the fill, and then the outside, which is called the stroke. So if you go scroll down here on this panel with the rectangle selected, you'll see there is a fill section and a stroke section. So for the fill, we're going to click on that. And if we go to this paint palette here, we can enter our hex value. And what we can do, the hex value is in your handout or on the slides, but I'm just going to copy and paste here so we get the right color. And sometimes it's a little bit finicky and you have to do it a couple times. All right, there we go. So next we're going to look at our stroke value, which is here, and I'm going to bump it up to 4 points to make it pretty close. So you can see we at least have the general shape and then our fill and stroke value. And the next thing we want to do in order to create our shape is to round our corners. So the way we do that, we are going to select each corner, and we're going to use this direct selection tool, which is the second one here on the left. And you can see there's these sections that are, they kind of look like a white circle with a dot in the middle. And what we're going to do is we want to address the top corners separately from the bottom. So in order to do that, we're going to use our shift key and hold shift while we click on, actually, we're actually going to be in this tool, this selection tool. Really, I don't know why it's not. Oh, we have to click on the corner in order to do that. So we're going to do hold shift and click on our anchor point here in the corner. And then we're going to do that on the other top corner. And then we're going to take our tool and we're going to hold it and we're going to move it in towards the center, and that creates the corner shape. So I'm not going to be super exact, but if you did want to be exact, what you can do is go over to our properties panel and go to these 3 dots here in the transform section. And it shows our corner shape here. So if we increase the shape to, let's say 60, it'll make it more rounded. And then if we decreased it, it would be less rounded. So let's do the same thing for our bottom corners. And these are going to be more rounded. So if we pull them all the way in, oops. I got to make sure I get better at this before we actually present. I'm actually just going to do it up here. So I'm going to set the top corners to 60 each. Okay. Another thing that we want to learn how to do is shift or command Z, which undoes everything that we didn't want it to do. So there we go. So now both of these are selected, so we can bring them in together. And you can see it makes this kind of U shape here. So now we've got our background shape here. Does anyone have any questions so far about the rectangle tool? No? Okay.
I think it's really good. Good job.
Thumbs up. Okay. Okay. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our mountains. So in order to do that, there's no our triangles. So there's no tool to do that. So what we're going to do to make a triangle specifically, but what we can do is use this polygon tool. And you can see there aren't any shortcuts for this. So we'll just need to select it. And I'm just going to click on the screen. And you can see the sides here shows 6. So that would be a 6-sided polygon. But if we change the sides to 3, it'll create a triangle for us. And then because we made this shape, this fill and stroke, it's going to reproduce that in our triangle. So we're going to want to change that. So we're going to go down to our fill. And we're going to change it to this color here. Oh, and an easy way to do that is if we use this eyedropper tool. So I'm going to select the triangle, go down to this tool here, which kind of looks like an eyedropper, and we can select that color that we want to use. And then if we go back to our selection tool, and let's do our stroke of 3 is okay. Okay. So next we want to adjust the size. So in order to do that, we're on our selection tool. And you can see how it turns into a 2-sided arrow. So we're going to increase the height. So that's one way to do it. Or again, we can go to our properties panel and add our height and width that way. But we're just going to keep it simple. And sometimes when you resize an object, it'll change the stroke value. So you can change it back. So I'll be more exact with it when we present, but
Looks good.
the general idea. Okay, so then the next thing that we can do is we want to make our next triangle. And if it's the same shape, which it generally is, what we can do is, select our triangle and we can copy and paste. So we can do Command C to copy and Command V to paste. And then what we can do is if you hold Shift, it'll keep the same shape as you resize it. So if I hold Shift and then take one of the corners and move it in, it'll resize it and keep the same shape. So let's do it about there. And then let's make it the right color. So this kind of lighter color. So again, we're going to select our triangle, go to our eyedropper tool, and we're going to select that color. Or you can put in the hex code that's on your slides. And then we're just going to move it down. And you can see it kind of snaps into place in order to be aligned. And in order to do that, we want to make sure that I'll need to relook at that again, but there's like a tool that you can make sure it snaps into place. So there's that. We've got our mountains. But the challenge is that, actually, I'm going to adjust so it's a little bit in front. But you can see that this triangle is in the back of this one, so we want to adjust the order. So the way to do that is if we select one of the triangles and then right click and then go to arrange, we can say send backward, and that will put it behind this triangle. So that's where we're at so far. If you can think of any poll questions as we're going through, Kirsten and Kim, let me know. But there we are. So any questions so far?
No, I think like if we put it, I mean, I've been taking notes as you go. You're doing a really good job. I'm just like, as I hear you like thinking aloud, I'm like taking notes of things that you are like saying to yourself, if that's okay. So like you don't forget.
Yeah, thank you.
But no, you're doing a really good job. So yeah.
Okay. But if you have any questions for real, let me know.
Oh yeah, no. Well, so the only thing that I wrote down is that like maybe like clarifying what stroke value is versus hex value. Because like some people may know what those are.
Oh,
But I
sure.
think maybe we can make a slide of like maybe some vocabulary before you start.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I'll need to run through it a few times in order to really get it down and make sure that it follows along with the handout as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking notes. I appreciate
it. Sorry. You're doing a really good job. I'm just like, but all right.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
One of those things where it's good to see it from another person's perspective, like what questions you have, So
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, taking note of like any like words that you keep saying over and over again that maybe like we want to clarify before we start going into it.
Yeah, totally.
Does that make sense? Like we can make another slide on that.
For sure. That's a great, maybe an introduction slide for it.
Yeah.
And I can do a better job of clarifying during the demonstration as well.
No, you're doing just fine. Yeah, I'm just trying to think like, yeah, like I don't know, like I feel like when you're a teacher, like one of the things you do is you try to like anticipate misconceptions, I guess. So I'm just maybe thinking that might be a misconception. I don't know, but like we can totally add it to the slides and it's nothing that you have to do. It's just something that we could add in, something less that you have to do. That way you just like get into it and people already know what it is. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? You're doing a really good job, so I really don't do it. You're doing really good.
No, I'm totally open to feedback. No, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, keep taking notes. Okay, so next we're going to move on to this moon shape, which is basically two circles. So the first one we're going to make with our ellipse tool. So we're going to come back over here. And this one does have a shortcut, which is L. So if you want to use L, you can use that as well. but we're going to click here. Again, we can either click on the screen and enter the dimensions, or we can click and draw. So if we do our dimensions here, if we, let's say, have 100 by 100, we'll just start with that. So that looks a little bit big, but we can resize it. And does anyone know what we do in order to make it smaller but hold the same shape?
Shift. Hold and shift.
We'll check.
Perfect. So we're going to hold shift and then decrease the size. And right now we're in our selection tool. Select looks about the right size. So again, we're going to adjust our fill. This one's easy. It's just going to be white. And then we are actually going to turn off our stroke, which is the border of the shape. So that one is this square with the red slash across it. So if we press that, you can see there's no fill and it's a white shape. So then we're also going to copy and paste that same shape. And we're going to make that shape smaller. And then we're going to move it. Actually, let's change the fill first. So we're going to make it our background color. So let's use our eyedropper again. And we're going to eyedrop our background color. And again, we're going to turn off the fill. And then we're going to move that shape into place until it looks like a crescent moon. And if we need to rotate it, one thing that we can do is we can group them if we need to move them together. So we can select the big or the small circle first and then hold shift and select the big one. And you can see there's this option here to group them together. So we can do that. And then if we want to rotate it with the selected, if we go to one of the corners, you can see it turns into a curved double arrow. And if we click on that and then rotate counterclockwise or clockwise, it'll move it around. So that's how we get our crescent moon shape. And then in order to create our star, we're again going to come over to our shapes. And here you can see there's a star tool. Again, we're going to click onto the artboard. And the first radius is kind of the inner radius of the star. So how big the middle part is going to be. And then the radius 2 is kind of the larger radius as far as the kind of the points of the star are going to extend. So this looks okay for right now. And let's say we're going to make it a 6-pointed star. So we'll increase that number to 6. And then here we go. So we can see it, I'm going to change the fill to white. And because we didn't have fill on our moon earlier, it didn't put fill here, so that's fine. And then we can resize it again by holding shift and then decreasing the size. And then moving it wherever we want it to go. So that's that. We've got our primary elements there. And then the only last thing that we need to add is our text. So you can see there's a T here. So we're going to click on that. Shortcut for that is T. And what we're going to do is just press, and then you can see it comes up with some text. And then what we can do is just start typing. So I'm just going to write KSK Designs. And then in order to change the color, we can't have it in the text format. We need to go to our select tool, and then we can see it in fill here. And we did ours in white, so that's what I'll do. And then if we want to change the font, we go down to character in our properties panel. And let's say we want to make it 30. And that's the size of the font. And then let's change the font type. So if we go here, it's under Myriad Pro. Ours was this Arial Rounded MT Bold. So let's select that. And then we're just going to put it into place. And if you want to adjust things, you can always just select it as well and then use your arrow keys to move it around if you want to adjust it just a little bit. So that's a nice handy tool. So there it is. Does anyone have any questions?
Nope, I'm totally ready to get started.
All right, so the next part of this activity, if you would like to create your own artboard and start making your own logo using the tools that we outlined, feel free and do that now. And if you have any questions as you go through, we've got about 10 minutes scheduled for this activity. So if you have any questions as you go along, feel free and put it in the chat. And then Kim is, for those of you that don't have Adobe Illustrator, she maybe, we haven't quite decided yet, we'll go into some tools that you can use for graphics that are free, that doesn't require a subscription. So I will stop sharing my screen. And
then we can give everyone 10 minutes and then I can run through, if we decide to go this way, I can go through show GIMP and then Inkscape and then maybe Blender. But we can go over like 2 to 3 tools.
Do you
that
guys
they
know how long we've been recording? Haven't we been going for? Do you guys know what time we started?
I put 27 minutes and that was like 5 minutes in. So
Like 8:27?
sorry, no, 27 minutes. I put on a stopwatch.
Oh, okay.
So it's been about, we'll say 35.
So we could probably give them, depending on if we do the GIMP or not, we have time to do the GIMP, or we gave them extra time.
Yeah, I guess we can kind of play it by ear. Plus, we didn't get through it'll take longer when we actually go through the slideshow in the beginning, I'm sure.
That's true, yeah. We didn't give them time to get started, yeah.
Should we move on to the share out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so and
I'm imagining too in the chat we can also say like, hey, time's up, come back to the Zoom so we can show you the next thing.
yeah. Okay. Sorry, I keep like minimizing my screen and it's sharing it. Okay, so all right, if you guys want to finish up what you've done so far. So why is it just paused? It's weird. Hold on, I'm sorry. It like paused by, oh, I know why. I think because it's on this one. Okay. Sorry. Oh shoot, sorry. Share screen. I'll make sure I get this fixed before we do it too. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, so all right, so if you guys want to wrap up what you're doing, so we do have another Padlet. But on this Padlet, what you guys will do is you guys will share out what you've done so far for your logo. Sorry, not to stop what I'm sharing, but I do think we're gonna have to show them how to download their logo.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I'll make sure to make a note of how to export it.
Yeah, I can go over that too, like an export, like when we come back together, like maybe like
oh yeah, okay.
how to do it.
Perfect, yeah.
Well, maybe you will have to do that because
Oh, because I'll be in Adobe. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe you want to do that.
Yeah, I'll make sure I do that.
Yeah. Okay. So then once I do that, like, so on this Padlet here, what you'll do is you'll click on the plus sign. Then you can upload from your computer. I think for that you could do that.
There's an upload.
Oh yeah. You
Yeah.
can upload from your computer, your logo for everyone to share. What's awesome about Padlet is that it's very interactive, so you can like by putting hearts, you can comment by asking questions. Like you can say like love it. So there's lots of things you can do to interact. This will be open for you guys to access too. So if you guys need like any inspiration or like if you think that someone made something really cool, you guys can come back and ask questions, and I encourage you guys to continue to collaborate after we're done. And then another thing that we were hoping to lead into, but we figured we just had so much going on right now, is the Adobe After Effects, which is actually where you can animate your logo. So that would be like a next step. And then that's where we would show the logo, right? The animated one.
Mhm.
But anyways, it's a great way to like animate it. It's a great another way to like kind of level up your logo and really elevate your design for your company. And then, yeah, sorry.
All right, and then so that's the end of our webinar, and thank you so much for participating in our webinar, and we hope that you learned how to create a logo and create something that you can use in the future for yourself or for a business or a client. And before we end our session, we just wanted to ask if you could please fill out our feedback form just so that we can get feedback to improve the webinar later on and make this better for the future. You can click on the link on the slides, or if you want to do the feedback form on your phone or iPad, you can scan the QR code on the right-hand side. And then we also just wanted to point out that on our handout, we have these steps for creating your 2D vector graphic, which you saw Stephanie do, and you got to practice a little bit on your own. But if you weren't able to completely finish your logo and you do want to finish it up, you can go see those steps there on the handout. And then if you are interested in creating an animated logo, we've put some resources on the handout to show you how to do that. And we've also got more detailed information about some of the different big topics that we talked about with links to different articles that you can check out to keep working on enhancing your logo or just learning some more of the Adobe tools and then GIMP and Inkspace as well. And then if you have questions later on when you're building your logo or have a question about how to use a tool, feel free to email any of us and we'd be happy to troubleshoot with you or answer any questions.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Bye. And then I don't know how to stop or record, sorry.